Thanks for the kind welcome. I'm Jack, Service and Interaction Designer at Co-op, at Coop Digital. Coop Digital is a function within the Co-op. And the Co-op, as you might have guessed, is a cooperative. We're owned and run by our members, and we're run for the benefit of the members in the community. We have almost disparate range of businesses, from food to funeral care to electrical to insurance to legal services. And I've worked with the Co-op for just over 4 years now, and a lot has changed in that time. I've had an amazing opportunity to experience one of the kind of UK's most historic and traditional businesses, take on the challenging journey of digital transformation. And I'm just going to share some of what we've learned with you today. It's not been easy, but we're kind of starting to see some of the reward for some of our efforts. So this is just going to be kind of a really practical talk on how we've implemented service design at the Coop Digital based on my observations over the last 4 years, if you like. I'll go into kind of what service design is, how we've implemented that at the Co-op. I'll give you some examples of how we've improved customer, colleague, and member experiences. But I think the most important two things that I'll touch on is kind of getting buy-in from stakeholders and the importance of aligning kind of outcomes and objectives, a bit like the iceberg picture that Blaze just showed there. I think without the bottom two, you don't really get to do the top three. But before I go into anything, I just wanted to kind of raise a general point about service design. And as Blaze touched on, he's already given kind of one definition, and I'm going to give a completely different one. I saw this tweet recently from Lou Down. I used to joke with a friend called Phil Hesketh, who is contracting at the Co-op at the minute, but I've worked with him in previous life. I'm from a UX background, and we used to joke that if you asked 10 UX designers what UX design was, you'd probably get 10 similar but different answers. And I think kind of the same goes for service design in a way. So I noticed this tweet from Lou Down recently. Lou is Director of Design and Service Standards at the UK government. And I think Lou is completely right. This is a problem. How can we expect to promote and kind of embed service design if we can't actually explain or articulate what it is? As you saw in Lou's tweet there, they are trying to create a set of principles around service design. If you want to get involved in the conversation and try and influence what those principles might be, you can join the conversation there. It's a Google document. I've just pulled out a couple of examples of the principles that they've kind of come up with in that doc. And what you might notice is that these are very kind of outcome-based, which is fine in this case. But it doesn't really kind of explain the journey of how you get to some of these outcomes, if you like. For me, what helps us to achieve some of these outcomes and what I see service design as is the culmination of a lot of people kind of working together towards a common goal, if you like. And I've framed it in this way. So service design for me is a holistic approach to solving problems using human-centered design methods. We're still really trying to work out what service design means in a cooperative environment. So this is a screenshot from that document that Lou's put together. What's nice about the way that Lou's developing these principles is that they're working collaboratively in the open, they're sharing the work as they go, they're looking for input. For me, that's kind of service design in action, in a way. And thinking about the statement I just made, kind of a holistic way to approach solving problems. Well, philosophically, holistic, as defined by the OED, is characterized by the belief that the parts of something are intimately interconnected and explicable only by reference to the whole, or in simpler language, dealing with or treating the whole of something and not just the part. So in order to do something holistically then, these behaviors, collaboration, sharing, working in the open, are key to successful service design in itself. Good service design is not the job of an individual, although we call ourselves service designers. It's really the outcome of, it's really the collective effort of the sum of the parts, if you like. it's a holistic way of thinking. So how have we actually implemented and enabled that to happen at the Co-op? Well, we've built communities. So Coop Digital is made up of many different kind of expertise and functions. Within Coop Digital, we have user researchers, interaction designers, service designers, product management, delivery, engineering. Each of these disciplines come together once a week for an hour as community practices to share learnings and discuss that week's topics, if you like. And each of those disciplines have, or each of those communities rather, have developed their own set of principles. They're all very human focused. The ones on screen here in the little GIF are the user research principles that we have. All our principles are all human-centered and are focused on creating great products and services that either meet the user need or the job to be done of that service. We also give back to the wider community. So our very own Catherine Grace, who is part of the Service Design UK network and a global service jammer, held a service design jam day, or it was a weekend rather, over 2 days. All the dates are actually a week there. Got something confused. And more recently, myself, Catherine Waistell, head of design, and Nate Langley, lead interaction designer, held a service mapping workshop with a group of students from a course called O in Liverpool, which is designed to offer alternative education to creative people. We do lots of work in the community, and these are just 2 things that I've pulled out. We've learnt and equipped ourselves with the right tools to enable service design to happen. Worked with some really great people from Common Good, Hyper Island, Stick People, us too, many, many more. But I think probably one of the most important things that we've done. Oh no, sorry. So these people have helped us to create and kind of embed service design methods and ways of thinking within the co-op. This is a picture of a service map, and at the bottom, kind of a blueprint that Emma is taking a couple of stakeholders through there. This is the day-to-day life of an in-store, of a food store, if you like. There's a lot going on there. I think it's about 6 meters long, that thing. It's difficult to find a printer big enough to print some of these things off. But I think one of the most important things that we've done really is we've shared our tools with the rest of the organisation. We're enabling other people to kind of practice and get involved in service design. And we've empowered everyone to do that themselves. We've done that by the way of something called the Design Toolkit. So this has been developed by 2 in-house interaction designers, Kieran Green and Louise Nichols. And this is about opening up our way of thinking around solving problems, if you like. It's publicly accessible. It's on the internet. Feel free to go and have a poke around with it. I think there is a feedback button on there if you'd like to give us some feedback on that. Matt Tyus, lead interaction designer, is also developing a design system, which seems to be this year's buzzword. This is kind of an out-of-the-box set of components for creating digital experiences and interfaces. This really enables us to rapidly prototype some of our ideas and get ideas out of our head into reality and put it in front of people, if you like. Which is really exciting as well that we've recently announced we've built an internal research lab facility. So we can kind of do everything on site now. We can research, put things in front of people in a really efficient and controlled way. But what these tools actually kind of enables us to do? Well, we've had lots of successes, and I've just kind of cherry-picked one service that might seem like quite a simple change, but it has a really big impact. So a while ago, we did a lot of research into kind of day-to-day working life in food stores, and we found lots of problems. But one of the main things we found is finding out how to just do things, the right things, in a food store was hard. So when a food colleague is either asked a question or encounters a scenario that they don't necessarily know how to deal with, We have a lot of students kind of working at the co-op food stores, so kind of turnover and knowledge and learning quickly kind of leaves the organisation. When they encountered those problems they didn't necessarily know how to deal with, we found that a lot of time was actually spent either calling kind of store managers who were at home, weren't in the store directly, either calling an operational support line or trying your damn hardest to log into a back office computer that has kind of one sign in, God knows what the password is. It's a terrible system. I have got a screenshot of that, but I didn't include it in this presentation because it hurts my eyes, basically. After some serious hard work from a multidisciplinary team, including 6 people that were actually seconded from food stores throughout the process. How I was made? To create this service, the entire in-store policy and kind of training guidance around how to run a food store had to be rewritten. The entire site was redesigned to be mobile first, and we published it online in the open on the web. So colleagues can actually access this on the phone now, on the floor in the store, when and where they need it, if you like. Ultimately, that's kind of improving colleagues and the customer's experience at the same time. There are lots of kind of positive elements to this project, but I've pulled out kind of just 2. This quote is from a store colleague, store assistant. They said, "It's now the norm in store to check how do I before calling OSS or the manager." There's also another quote from the manager's side where she's saying she actually feels less anxious now when she's out of work. She knows that the team are kind of empowered to problem solve themselves now, and she can sleep at night. And on the other side of it as well, ultimately the profit and loss of the business. We've saved around £500,000 a year now that people aren't wasting time kind of logging on, logging out of systems, ringing people who might not be around, looking for answers. They're empowered to solve these problems themselves. The service empowers colleagues to take more of a self-help approach to solving problems. So there's benefits of both sides there, the cultural aspects as well as the business, if you like. I think it's really important to pull it out. Things are going well now. We're well on our journey to digital transformation, if you like, but it's not always been that easy. We've had some hard battles along the way, and to give ourselves the opportunity to showcase the power of service design, if you like. And I'm just going to share some tips on what I've found are really good ways of kind of getting buy-in from stakeholders to enable some of this stuff to happen. One of the first things I found is kind of stakeholders should be part of the team, not clients, if you like. Getting buy-in from stakeholders in a way of working or to a concept or a way of thinking that is probably alien to them is very difficult, especially in an organisation as large and kind of disparate as the Co-op, as we've just seen. People may have worked in the same way, under the same processes for a long time, and that might work for them. But there is a better way, and as a digital function, it's up to us to kind of show them that. Stakeholders as part of the team, not clients. Because that enables us really to connect stakeholders with the end user. By having stakeholders embedded within the team, you're amplifying your user's voice, if you like. Connecting your stakeholders directly with the service users is one of the most powerful tools of persuasion I've ever found. So include them in research studies, take them down to the lab, get them involved in sketching workshops and sessions, take them on that journey with you, if you like. Visualize the actual experience that people go through. We do things called service safaris, where we try and take our exec and board members out of the office, which is incredibly difficult to do, and actually walk them through the reality of a user's experience in whatever service that is. So that might be using your membership card. We have a loyalty scheme at the Co-op, and it's often, more than often the case, that reality doesn't match their expectation or assumption of how that service works, if you like. And it's at that point where opportunity really becomes available. So ultimately, connect your stakeholders with your users. There's no getting away from this. Show them the money. In a retail organisation, money is the bottom line, right? It doesn't matter how you put it. Money talks in a way. We're all human-centered designers, but sometimes empathy alone and talking about user needs and jobs to be done isn't enough to get those stakeholders and project sponsors on board and giving you the opportunity to kind of make an impact on that service. Just like you saw in the How Do I example there, we rewrote, well, not me personally, a lot of hard work from other folk. We rewrote a lot of that in-store policy and guidance in using language that store colleagues use themselves, right? And just thinking about that same thing, speak to your audience. If you're talking to business folk, use their language. They like to see pounds and pence. Service design works in a cooperative model because a cooperative should bring member and business benefit as well. And build on successes. So take those key opportunities. Timing is key, as Blaise was saying. There's a proverb in government digital service that the strategy is delivery. If you're engaged in that conversation, I know it's a bit of a political hot potato at the moment, but it used to be the strategy is delivery. The How Do I example I showed before actually enabled the team, gave the team the opportunity to build out 2 other service alphas for the food business. When I said during that How Do I project, 6 people were seconded from within the food store and taken on that journey with us. One of those people that was seconded is now actually a product manager working in the heart of the food business and is now on the front line of digital transformation. I think when a stakeholder goes on that journey with you, they become your biggest advocates and they really open up the door to a lot of other opportunities. The success of How Do I and the process that we used to deliver it enabled another 2 alphas, like I said. One of those being Shifts, which just recently, I think it was last week, won 3 awards at the Big Chip Awards. Shifts is like a web app that enables store colleagues to manage their day-to-day working time, if you like. So I can see when I'm working, I can, or they can, try to give it to someone else and kind of trade shifts with others. We're really opening up the day-to-day working life of in-store colleagues and empowering them to manage their works. We actually came away with 5 awards that night. The other 2 awards were for a service called Guardian that we've developed for the funeral care business. I'm often when I see awards, I'm often kind of like, nah, so what? You probably sponsored the award night. You probably paid for this. But actually, I've been convinced otherwise. This is all great internal PR, right? Internal and external. All of a sudden, this small this traditional, almost outdated kind of business is now a multi-award winning digital organisation. And the PR that gives you both externally and internally, again, opens up lots of other doors for opportunity for you to implement good service, if you like. Guardian, the software for funeral care, is completely revolutionising that industry. It's the first of its kind. And thinking about kind of what TfL have done, Transport for London have done with their kind of Oyster system, Guardian could potentially be kind of repackaged as a white label product and resold as a piece of software in its own right. And all of a sudden, this organisation now has become a multi-award winning software development organisation. So build on those successes. As I mentioned, it was an easy path to get here. One of the main reasons we were able to deliver a lot of these services is because we were all in complete alignment, heading in the same direction towards a common goal. Aligning outcomes is not easy. Thankfully, when Coop Digital was founded about 3 years ago, it was brought about really by kind of thought leaders and technologists like Mike Bracken, Ben Terrett, Tom Loosemore. I realised when I was putting the slide together that I'm a white male, talking about 3 white males. Ben's a feminist. We're an incredibly kind of diverse and inclusive organisation. We've actually recently just achieved over a 50% representation of female workers in our development team, which I think is an incredible achievement. But these 3 people really did a lot of the hard work to align outcomes at an executive level, which really gave us the keys to do what we do, if you like. We've got a lot to thank them for. They created the environment for success that we continue to build on, and we thank them for that. It's a bit like the classic Jeff Bezos email at Amazon. I think that was about 10, 15 years ago. Not quite as mandated as that. I think Jeff said something like, either get on board or get out of here. It wasn't quite that ruthless, but similar vein. Takes risk takers. It was especially hard kind of aligning objectives in an organisation, like I say, that's as disparate as the Co-op. Our businesses are kind of broken up into individual business units. They might have competing objectives. They might work in very different ways using different systems. We're a co-op. We should be working together and collaborating together. We should have shared tools, if you like. What Mike, Tom, and Ben allowed us to do by aligning those outcomes is work with all these businesses to get a much more coherent, kind of collaborative way of working throughout all those businesses. To do this may require like a complete rethink of your organisation. I know when I joined the Co-op about 4 years ago, I was literally sat on a desk, kind of, hi, I'm new, I'm Jack, and about 3 kind of people down. People were being made redundant, and that's a difficult environment to kind of be. But if you don't do this, kind of none of that other stuff happens. Do the hard work to make things simple. Everyone needs to be heading in the same direction, incentivized, motivated, and kind of rewarded by the common goal. Because despite everything I've said in this presentation, principles are only valuable if they're followed at the end of the day. Incentivize and reward for the right behaviour that affects and drives the right outcomes that you're looking for, if you like. Before I wrap up, I'm just going to say 3 key takeaways from everything I've said. Embrace community, build your own, immerse yourself in communities that are already existing. Use those skills, bring them into your organisation. Align outcomes top to bottom. Get everybody heading in the same direction throughout the entire organisation. And take stakeholders on that journey with you. Do this right and they'll become your biggest advocates, opening the door for much more opportunity in the future. To find out more about any of this or anything what's going on at the Co-op, go and take a look at the digital blog. Otherwise, thanks for listening.